recording. So I have to add some to the beginning. Okay, so today we're talking about the string class. We're just talking about the string classes being super important in any language that you might program in. String classes are your bread and butter class. So what is a string class? Well, a string is a sequence of characters. I always think about, and during the holidays, some people take popcorn and a thread and they make a garland out of the popcorn. I always think of strings like that. Each kernel of popcorn is a letter or a symbol of some sort. And it's all strung together into this garland and makes a sequence of characters, like a sentence or a paragraph or even a word or a password or a secret code. I mean, all of these would be considered just a sequence of characters. What is a character? Well, that's just a generic name for something you might type on the keyboard. A 0 is a character, a 1 is a character, an H is a character, a percent sign is a character. This is a very generic word for something that you might type in. Strings are objects of the string class. So there's a class called string. It's capitalized. It's a class name because it starts with a capital letter. A string literal is a sequence of characters enclosed in double quotation marks. Now, we've used these a lot so far in this class. We just haven't known what to call them. So a literal is something, say, this literally means this. We're literally putting this in to the code. It's hard-coded to hello world. That's called a string literal. Okay. It's actually hard-coded into the program somewhere. You can also get the length of a string. It's a method, which is kind of weird. In some languages, if you need the length of something, it's a property. But here, it's actually a method. So you say, you can even use it on literal. You can say Harry dot, because Harry's a string, dot length, and it will tell you 5. But notice length has the open and close parentheses after it. It's a method. If you see the open and close parentheses on anything, typically, that means it's a method. Okay? That's how you tell a method from everything else. Even if it doesn't take any parameters, it has an open and close parenthesis. There's something called the empty string. An empty string exists in memory. It just doesn't have any characters in it. That's different than a null string or an string object reference set to null. Those are two different things. One actually has a place in memory. The other one doesn't. This one has a place in memory, the empty string. It's allocated some space in memory for that string. It just doesn't have any characters in it yet. That's called the empty string. Here's a funny word, concatenation. Concatenation. What does that mean? I call this one pasting, or the pasting operator. You take one string and you paste it on the other. It's like you take those two garlands, you tie them together, and now you have a longer garland, okay? That's what concatenation means. It's just a fancy word for meaning paste them together, like cut and paste. So the way you do that is if you have a string on one side of this operator and a string on the other side, or sometimes not, it will paste them together. And now you have a larger string with both sides in it. So that's called the concatenation operator. Now I won't call it the plus operator. I'm just adding things together. If you want to say, hello, Dave, you could say this, hello, and then use the plus sign and add the name string. And what you'll get coming out is hello, Dave. Because they got concatenated together. They got pasted together. Now it's just one long string. If one of the arguments of the plus operator is a string, then the other argument is converted to a string. So, for example, if you take the word agent and you have the number 7, right, and you add them together, I guess, using the concatenation operator, what you get is, this is an integer, right? This is a string. So what this does is it converts this to a string and then appends it or concatenates on to this string. So you get bond is agent 7. So there's a hidden conversion there from a number to or Yeah, a number to a string. Now, the number 5 and the letter 5 or the symbol 5 are two different things inside a computer. If you look inside a computer, the number 5 is, well, the binary number 5. It's 101. But the symbol for 5 is not 101. The symbol for 5 is an ASCII value. It's 35 hexadecimal. Okay. So you have to know when you, even if you're dealing with digits that are in a string, those aren't numbers. Those are strings. If you want them to be numbers, you have to convert them from strings into numbers or from numbers back into strings. You're doing this constantly when you program. There's this conversion between strings and numbers. So here they're nice to you. They say, well, this is a string, but this one's not. So we're just going to convert it for them. You don't have to do it yourself. Java's trying to help you out. So how do you concatenate in a print statement? Useful to reduce the number of system.out print line instructions. If you have a whole bunch of stuff that you want to print, say you say the total is, and you have to type in system.out print line again. Again, programmers don't like to type in things over and over again. We've got enough of that to do. So you can say it all in one statement. You can say the total is space, and then add on the total. You don't have to convert the total to a string because the concatenation operator will automatically convert it for you. So that's nice. Wouldn't it be 007? Yeah, Logan, you're right. But no, unfortunately, you'd have to append those 2 zeros on yourself as strings, I guess, for 007. So how do you convert between strings and numbers? Since you're doing this all the time, if you're programming anything, a lot of the times you're converting between strings and numbers. How do you do that? Well, one way you could do it is this way. You take your string that has digits in it. Say the string has the symbol 1 and the symbol 7. It's not 17. It's the string 17. And you want to convert that to an int. What you do is you take your integer wrapper class. We talked about wrapper classes already. And on that wrapper class, it has a way of taking a string and turning it into an integer. If it has just numeric data in it, it should be able to convert it. So it's called parseInt. The word parse is a funny word, but it's like if you're taking something like input and you're transforming it into output, it's usually text-based. That's called parsing. So parseInt would say, take the string, turn it into an integer, and then return that as its return value, and then you can store that into a variable. So when your user, we see this all the time when you ask the user for something. How many things do you want? They put in 5. Well, you can't just put 5 in. The 5 they put in is a string. You have to convert it to an integer before you can use it in your program. I want 5 cookies or 5 dice or something. There's also one for doubles. If you have a string that has a decimal point and symbols to the right of the decimal point, as long as they're numeric, it'll be able to take that, parse it into a double, and then return that value. And then you can store that into the x value. So that's how you convert strings into numbers. Okay. Now, what if you want to go the other way? What if you want to go from a number to a string? How do you do that? Well, here's a really cheap way of doing it. This is for lazy programmers like myself. They have fancy methods for doing this, but if you want to trick it, what you do is you just put in the empty string, and then you add your number to it, and the compiler goes, oh, they're concatenating onto a string, even though it hasn't have any characters in it. So it'll automatically convert that to a string. So here's the cheap and easy way of doing numeric conversion to strings is you can just take the empty string and add your string to it, or add your number to it, and it will automatically convert the number to a string, and now it's a string. That's kind of cheap, but it's a lot less typing these other choices. Integer, in the integer class, they have a toString method where you pass in the letter n. Notice how much more typing that is. I'd rather do that than all this, okay? But it does the exact same thing, okay? So you can choose which way you want to do it. If you're a more formal programmer and you don't want to use the kludgy way of doing it, you'd rather be a little bit more formal, then maybe you choose that second one. But if you just want to get the job done, maybe do it like that. Experienced Java programmers would know what you're doing. It's not really clear what you're doing here. Here, it's really obvious what you're doing. But here, if you're working with people that don't code very much or aren't very good coders, you might not do it this way. You do it this way just to be really explicit. Okay. I don't know if I want to go on substrings today. Problem is, it's so hot in here. I don't know if we want to. Yeah. So what I'll do is well, how much time we got? About 10 minutes. I think we have enough time to get through this. So yeah. So let's just talk about substring real quick. There's not too many slides. So here's a greeting, a hello world. We see that one a lot. Okay. And say you want to get a substring out of that. Say you just want to get hello out of that. Well, there's this substring method where you pass in the starting position. Positions start counting at 0. So that would be where the H is. And then you want to go, and this is where it's unclear to me. I think this is the length. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it'll get you the word hello. Now, this also could be the ending index as well. This is why I'm confused, because the O, or the one after the O, is the 5th position, or not the 5th position, but position number 5, because you start numbering them at 0. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm not so clear on substring. It says supply the start and 1 past the end position. So that isn't a length, okay? It's not a length. It's a bad example. They say, I want to start position 0, and then I want to stop 1 past, or 1 before position 5. So that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We want to stop at the comma, and we don't want to include that. So it's very strange. The starting one is inclusive. The ending position is not inclusive. It's exclusive. So the first position is 0, like I said. Position 5 is here. Notice I didn't say the 5th position. Position 5, which is the 6th position. And it's 1 past the one we want. Why do they do it that way? Well, in a lot of programming languages, that's how they do it. It makes parsing strings easier if you do this 1 past the last one you really want. Not sure why. I figured it out once and wrote a paragraph or 2 on it, but then I quickly forgot it because no one cares. So if you wanted to get world, well, you would say 7, because that's the starting position of world, the word, and then 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 is the one you want. So you say 12 is where you want to stop. Remember, the substring length is past the end. Substring length is past the end. What are they saying? Yeah, question. Yeah, I would say so. It's probably something to do with that, the length. You'd like to say, well, yeah, I just want to get the length. And so you could actually call the length method, and maybe that's why they do it that way. But that's a good point. Substring length is past the end and minus start. So here we're going from 7 to 11, but you say 12. So you ask for one more than you want, basically. Now in other languages, it does just the opposite. For substrings, they tell you the starting position and the length. How many characters do you want? That would be so much easier. But no, Java doesn't do it the easy way. Subject 4.1.4, assuming the string variable s holds the value agent, what is the effect of s equals s plus s dot length? Well, s dot length returns the length of the string, which is a number, but that gets converted back to the string by this concatenation operator because s is a string. Now, if s started out as agent, you'd say agent, and then you'd append a 5 on it. So it'd say agent 5. Assuming the string variable river holds the value Mississippi with a space at the end, what is the value of river.substring 1, 2? Well, that's odd. Your starting position is 1. Notice that's not the M, that's the I. And then 2 is where you want to, 1 past where you want to stop. So that would be here. So you'd only get the letter I. That gets you 1 letter. Looks like it would get you 2, but it doesn't. Of river.substring 2, river length minus 3, what would you get? Well, these are the 2 answers. You just get the letter I for the first one, and then you get this for the second one. Now, if you ever tried typing on a different country's keyboard, it's really confusing. I sometimes write in Spanish, so I have to convert my keyboard into Spanish keyboard, but the problem is these keyboards don't have both English and Spanish on them. So I have to kind of know where the keys are. So I have a little graphic here that tells me if I were typing in German, this is what a German keyboard would look like. Now, I used to do international programming. I would write programs for companies all around the world, so I had to worry about this kind of stuff. And I would take an English language system and convert it into whatever localized language I have. And it was not as simple as just translating. All the characters in American code were all one byte long. And if you want to use international character sets, you have to make all the characters 2 bytes long. So all your strings just doubled in size because of that. And you'd have to do conversions all the time. So it was really difficult work, actually. And but I was able to come up with some really cool systems for doing that kind of conversion. Here's the Thai alphabet again. I don't read Thai very well. It looks really cool though. Chinese, I feel bad for people in China because their laptops are massive. They have like over 7,000 characters. Yeah, just think of the keyboard on that. Yeah, that's how it takes forever. No, actually, that's not how they type in China. Basically, each of these characters are pictographs, are in a class of pictographs. So you pick the class first, and then you narrow it down. So just to put in one of these takes maybe 3 character strokes. And that's 1 letter. And that's the next letter because you're narrowing it down till you want to see the one you want, and it brings up the choices on the screen. Writing in kanji or in Chinese, challenging. Has anyone ever taken Japanese in here or at home? Yikes. Learning how to write in Japanese is challenging. I took a Japanese class, and not only do you have to get the picture looking right, but you have to get the stroke order correct as well. They're really picky about that. Why does it matter? I'd say, why does it matter which line I draw first? But it's really important, evidently. So, so strings aren't just I think what they're trying to say is strings aren't just what you'd see in English. Strings can have anything in it. There's a code page out there called Unicode. It's got every character in any language ever written anywhere on Earth. It's available. That's what they use for the internet. That's how you can have a page and have a mixture of Japanese and English and Spanish all in one page. It's because we have a centralized code page that can handle all of those symbols. Now, when I first started coding, Unicode didn't exist, so I had to come up with my own code pages. I had to write my own code pages and come up with my own codes and stuff. Then Unicode came out, and then that made it a lot easier. So that was nice. All right, so that's everything we needed to talk about strings. So what is your current assignment then? Well, we're still working on the cash register. If we go to today's lesson, 24, I do have a link to the assignment. I did activate that, and there's a video there. Evidently, it goes through most of this except for this 4.2. I guess I'm expecting, or expected back then, that you would be able to code up project 4.2 with regard to the enhanced cash register based on what you've learned. But I do describe it really carefully about what you need to do, and it goes over that in the video, evidently. All right, so if you're in Java 1, you're free to log off. You can start working on this cash register assignment, and then we'll reconvene tomorrow. There is no advisory. Today is Wednesday, so I think everybody got the message, but we're going to have class tomorrow and Friday as well. All right, I'll see you later. Java 2 folks, though, stick around because we still have more to talk about.